Hey everyone! Today I'm talking about Ayurvedic and herbal hair treatments. The format of the video is going to be that I talk about hair care in a holistic way, so more kind of focusing on the Ayurvedic approach to hair, and the second part of the video is going to be more kind of practical tips about hair care maintenance, and I'm going to give you a couple of recipes that you can try out as well. Okay, so in terms of how we view hair in Ayurveda, Ayurveda is seen as very much part of the holistic body system. So it's actually one of the malas, so the kind of wastes of the body. Urine, feces and sweat are seen as the three kind of primary malas, and then you also have, a secondary malas, the hair and the nails, things that kind of grow out of the body and aren't necessarily kind of living tissue of, in their own right. So when we talk about hair health, when we talk about healthy hair and hair that is experiencing dis-ease or states of imbalance, it's very much connected to the rest of the system. And before we start to think about what we can put on the hair to make it look better, it's really important to think about what's going on inside the body that's showing up as an expression of dis-ease or expression of imbalance in the hair, just as it would in something like the skin. So when you're having acne prone skin, dryness in the skin, it's not just the skin, it's really what's going on inside the body and it's showing on the outside. So before we begin and before we kind of delve into this topic, I really wanted to make that clear that hair is an expression of health of the internal body. So when we're talking about this in an Ayurvedic kind of sense, it's always going to be looking at the internal health of the body, and that will kind of gradually shine through to the outside. So with that said, when we experience imbalance in the hair, as it can show up as dryness, brittleness, dullness, slowed growth, premature greying and balding as well, the loss of hair, if you're experiencing any of those things, the first real port of call in the Ayurvedic medicine is to look at the 4 pillars of health, and these are diet, lifestyle, the expenditure of energy, so how much energy are you really giving away as in your day-to-day life, and sleep. So these things are really, really simple, and just by taking a good honest look at your diet, lifestyle, energy and sleep, you can get probably a really good sense of where that imbalance is coming from. Additionally to this, we can use the Ayurvedic diagnostic protocol to work out a little bit more specifically what's going on in terms of this imbalance showing up in the hair. So the first thing that we would do is look at the state of the doshas. So in Ayurveda we think about the body system and also everything else in the world that is living in terms of a kind of interplay of different elemental forces. So air, ether, fire, water, earth. And the doshas are kind of grouped little subsets of these bioenergies. So Vata dosha is the combined ether and air principles, Pitta dosha is the combined water and fire principles, and the Kapha dosha is the combined earth and water principles. So, if there's an imbalance of these energies in your system, that's going to show up in your hair, and we'll talk a little bit about that more later. Another thing to check in with in the Ayurvedic principle is ama, which is the toxin. So the toxin level of the body, how much undigested food, how many toxins are you intaking from your environment, your food sources, medications that you might be taking. So that might all be affecting also the health of the hair. And then going to digestion. So in Ayurveda, pretty much every imbalance boils down to digestion. If you have something, an imbalance showing up in the hair or the skin, it's probably going to come down to a reduced digestive capacity, or something's going on with your digestion. And in Ayurveda, we call that Agni, which means fire. So the digestive fire, the digestive strength is impaired. And by figuring out exactly what is going on with that and correcting it, you're then going to create lasting change in the hair. And all of these things you can unpick yourself a little bit if you're interested in Ayurveda and learning more, and I'm happy to recommend some books if you're interested in doing that. If not, you can consult with an Ayurvedic practitioner and they will give you the tools and the understanding of those doshas, Agni and Ama that I just spoke about. One more factor which can really affect the hair growth and the health of the hair is environmental factors, so sun and wind exposure in particular. So just being aware, if you live in a place that is sunny or there's a lot of movement of the air, that might be also causing things like dryness, brittleness and premature greying of the hair, because of the kind of elemental aggravation of those things. So when you have a lot of heat on the hair, that's going to increase pitta, the fire dosha, that causes things like premature greying and drying out of the hair, thinning of the hair, and then equally vata dosha, which is the air and ether principles, which would be kind of encapsulated in a very windy day. If you live in a windy place, like for example, sort of high altitude, lots of wind, then that's going to dry out the hair again, and it's going to create more brittleness and also thinning of the hair. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about these two doshas that affect hair growth. So vata and pitta in excess affect hair growth and health in a negative way. So when you have lots of kapha, that's good, because kapha hair tends to be very, thick and luxurious and oily and shiny, and that's what everybody likes. So you don't really have to worry about kapha dosha in this instance. But when you have elevated levels of vata and pitta, then that becomes problematic, and that's where a lot of hair imbalance originates. So beginning with vata dosha, excess vata causes the hair to slow in growth, to become brittle, dull and thin. So if you're experiencing that kind of imbalance in your hair, then these are a few really simple tools that you can do to balance back the vata, bring it back down into balance, and then you'll see that the hair kind of begins to regrow, become a little bit thicker and stronger. So first of all, vata really benefits from creating and sticking to a routine. So if you can create a routine for yourself that really mirrors the natural cycles of the day, so rising early in the morning and eating at 7, 12 and 7 again, so you have this really regular kind of pattern. Then drinking and eating warm food, so don't drink anything cold or eat anything cold. Use warming spices in your meals and include plenty of natural oils in the diet. Lots of ghee, lots of olive oil, whatever floats your boat, as long as it's, whole foods, organic, nice stuff. Another thing that you can do to really pacify vata is to take baths with oils in the bath, and also apply oil to your body. So if you warm up some oil, you can use some untoasted sesame oil or coconut oil or whatever you find nice to have on your skin. You can just warm that up a little bit in a bain-marie and then apply that over your entire body and even in your hair. Some people don't like the way that looks, but it's just, a choice. It will be beneficial to the scalp as well, so just choose whether you want to do that or not. Another thing that is really typical of vata excess is also a sense of real kind of anxiety and fear, and something that you can do to bring that down as well is to employ a regular meditation and breathwork practice, or indeed identifying stresses in your life and sort of reducing them or eliminating them altogether. So that's Vata. So what about Pitta? Pitta in excess can cause premature thinning of the hair, greying of the hair, which actually I have experienced. When my Pitta goes up, I notice more grey hairs on my head. I notice lots of hair kind of falling out. I'm pulling lots of hair out of my hair. So in order to pacify the Pitta in the system, there's lots of things you can do. You can reduce or eliminate caffeine and alcohol. That's a really big one. Refined sugars, also spicy and hot foods, including garlic and chili, as well as sour and fermented foods. So reduce those drastically if you are having premature balding and greying of the hair. Also reducing salt in the diet and red meat, which are both Pitta aggravating, or if you'd like to think about it, heating is another way of saying that, so inflammatory. Drinking plenty of fresh, pure water. And also, just like in Vata with the fear and anxiety, there's an emotional component to Pitta. So there's this kind of resentment, anger, rage. So what can be quite helpful is to kind of keep a cool head, both physically and kind of emotionally, dealing with anger as it comes up, dealing with resentment in a healthy way, and also sort of releasing old anger. And there's lots of ways of doing that, and I'm happy to do another kind of talk about that, but we're talking about hair right now, so let's keep that bit brief. Okay, so that's sort of Vata and Pitta in excess, how to calm that down. And then just to sort of conclude this part that I was talking about, holistically, the hair is a mirror of the internal state of health of the body. So when you're taking a good, honest look at yourself, your hair, and just drawing those links between, okay, I've got thinning hair, what's going on? Okay, I'm really stressed. Okay, stress causes Vata aggravation, or Vata aggravation causes stress. It's like a chicken and the egg situation. So find ways of bringing that stress level down, and then you'll see over time the benefits and improved health in the hair.